The movie begins in a house deep inside the forest, where two kids are playing a game, but they didn't notice the strange shadows passing by the window. The world outside was full of zombies. It had been 6 years since the apocalypse began. These brother and sister were the only survivors living in an abandoned villa far away from the city. Staying alive this long wasn't easy. They faced dangers far beyond imagination. One day, a couple arrived in a car in front of the villa. The little boy, Jim, came out holding a toy gun. The man asked him, "Where are your parents?" Jim stayed silent, so the man just smiled and said, "All right, maybe next time." That night, Jim locked all the doors and windows tightly with his sister. Outside, zombies were standing, ready to break in at any moment. But by morning, everything became quiet again. Jim checked the bullets in his gun, and that's when it was clear this wasn't just a toy gun. The next day, while the siblings were playing outside as usual, the same pickup truck returned. But this time, the couple's behavior was more serious. Again, they asked, "Where are your parents?" Jim lied, saying they went to the city to get supplies. But that small lie couldn't fool them. The woman smiled sweetly and said, "The city is hours away from here. We can stay and protect you until they return." When the couple saw that the house had plenty of food, electricity, and even a working fridge, they decided to stay. The man, Jack, said he'd go outside to hide the car. It seemed like the two of them were running away from someone. That night, Jim overheard them talking. They sounded really happy to have found this place. For safety, Jim took his sister to a secret safe room, one of the many precautions that had kept them alive all these years. The next morning, Jack had already made breakfast like it was his own house. Jim stayed calm, but then said something strange. "Before you even realize it, everything will be over." Later that night, Jim suddenly asked, "What time is it?" Their pet dog smelled something and then nodded slightly. Jim instantly woke up his sister and locked her inside the safe room again. Downstairs, the couple were still enjoying themselves, unaware of the danger that was about to come. The woman went to the bathroom, but suddenly saw a few zombies sticking to the window outside. She quickly turned off the light, thinking they wouldn't see her, but she didn't realize the door behind her had just opened. Jack soon felt something was wrong. He pulled out his gun and went to check, and there she was, lying on the floor covered in blood. After that, the couple was never seen again. Jim and his sister continued playing as if nothing had happened. Clearly, this wasn't the first time they had dealt with intruders. Meanwhile, a long-haired man was wandering through the forest. He noticed traps set in the snow and followed the footprints, which led him straight to the villa. Suddenly, the little girl appeared in front of him. Before he could even react, a tranquilizer dart hit his neck and he fell unconscious. Actually, the person who attacked Aiden was Jim himself. It was one of his survival tricks. When the man woke up, Jim was already waiting for him with a gun in his hand. During questioning, the man revealed that his name was Aiden, and he was a special forces soldier just passing through. He said he was heading north to look for his wife. Jim was a bit surprised. This man seemed different. He didn't want food, medicine, or shelter. All he wanted was his weapon back. Jim saw an opportunity and made a deal. He told Aiden that if he wanted his weapon, he'd have to help power up the villa's electricity. Curious, Aiden asked, "Where are your parents?" This time, Jim didn't lie. He explained that his father was a scientist who disappeared long ago, and his mother was a security agent who went on a mission a few days ago, and she'd be back soon. Aiden looked at the treadmill nearby with disbelief. He couldn't believe this villa ran on electricity made by running on that treadmill. Suddenly, he saw a zombie slowly walking outside the window. Without thinking, Aiden grabbed a metal plate and ran out. After killing the zombie, he came back covered in blood. Jim shouted at him, "Why did you kill it? The windows are made of special bulletproof glass. No matter how many zombies there are, they can't get in." Even though Aiden got scolded, he started to feel sorry for the kids. So to make up for it, he stepped on the treadmill himself and began running to generate power for the house. One night passed and Aiden was completely exhausted. Jim's little sister came close to him, wrinkled her nose, and said, "You smell terrible," before running away. Feeling embarrassed, Aiden went to take a shower. The girl sweetly handed him a hair clip before he left. Meanwhile, Jim had gone out of the villa to check the traps he set up around the area. These traps were what kept zombie groups away. Suddenly, he noticed a live zombie caught in one of them. Back in the villa after breakfast, Aiden went to the workspace where Jim's mother used to work. On the desk, there were photos and a car key. Curious, he rushed to the garage, but the car was broken. That's when a small locked room in the corner caught his attention. Thinking it was just a tool room, he tried to open it, but Jim had just returned and shouted, stopping him immediately. After spending more than a day together, the siblings finally began to trust Aiden. That night, they didn't go to sleep inside their safe room, but strangely, before sleeping, Jim handcuffed himself to the bed. Just before sunrise, Aiden woke up to the sound of footsteps outside. It was Jim again, out checking the traps. When Jim reached the same spot as yesterday, he saw the zombie still trapped there. He stood there thinking what to do next. Suddenly, Aiden appeared behind him. Seeing the zombie's face, Aiden was shocked. He thought it was Jim's mother. He was about to set her free when Jim suddenly pointed his gun at him again. Angry and confused, Aiden returned to the villa. There, he unlocked the room Jim had stopped him from entering before. Inside, he found a blanket on the floor and strange claw marks all over the walls. It looked like this room had been used to keep a zombie locked inside. Now, Aiden's suspicions grew even stronger. Just then, he heard the sound of an engine outside. A car had arrived. More survivors had come, but they didn't look friendly. They started walking around the villa, clearly searching for weapons. Aiden had no gun, so there was nothing he he could do but wait for what was coming next. Jim, who had just returned, could only watch everything from a distance. His sister was standing by the second-floor window, waving her hand. Just as the looters were about to notice her, Aiden suddenly rushed forward and picked her up in his arms. Jim finally took a deep breath of relief. The looters tried to open the doors and windows, but everything was locked tight, so they eventually gave up and drove away in their car. After this incident, Jim's trust in Aiden grew even stronger. He returned Aiden's weapon to him. Aiden felt that it was time for him to leave, but somehow he didn't want to go anymore. However, that night in his dream, he once again heard his wife calling his name. When he woke up, he made a big decision. He would take Jim and his sister with him on his journey to find his wife. That way, he could keep his promise and also protect the two kids. But Jim refused. He said he had to stay and wait for his mother to return. Suddenly, loud noises came from outside. The same looters from yesterday had come back, this time with more men, and they had captured Jim's little sister while she was playing outside. When both sides were face to face, a few gunshots were heard from the distance. Two of the looters fell to the ground instantly. Aiden rushed forward and rescued the girl. The one shooting was none other than Jim's mother, Agent Lena. But during the chaos, one of the looters shot Aiden right in the chest. He collapsed to the ground, motionless. No one knew how much time passed, but eventually, Aiden slowly opened his eyes. The wound on his chest had already healed, and there was a rope tied around his body. Above him, Jim and his family were waving at him. Confused, Aiden went inside the house, and that's when Lena told him everything. She explained that when normal people get infected, they lose control of their brain function and turn into mindless zombies. But there are also special infected, rare people who gain the zombies' physical abilities while still keeping part of their human mind. Their bodies can heal from any wound or disease. The only problem is that after some time or after a serious injury, they lose control and go insane, just like a real zombie. Aiden was shocked. Was he one of those special infected, an advanced zombie? Lena nodded. She said if he wasn't, he would have died instantly after being shot, instead of just losing control for a short time and then waking up as if nothing had happened. Then came another shocking truth. Jim was also one of the special infected. The couple who had died that night, they were actually killed by Jim himself during one of his uncontrollable fits of madness. That's why every night, Jim handcuffed himself before sleeping to make sure no one got hurt if he lost control again. Aiden was stunned. He asked, "Can't you tell when the madness is coming?" Lena explained that Jim's pet dog was specially trained for that. Right before the madness starts, the dog gives a small signal, like a faint bark or growl, to warn them in time. Aiden then remembered that strange room with scratch marks on the walls. Now he understood. That was where Jim was locked up whenever the madness took over. Suddenly, the sound of a car came from outside again. Lena rushed out with her daughter and faced a group of armed men. Their leader was an old man with a white beard, someone Lena clearly recognized. It turned out that this old man's daughter had run away with a young man, and ever since, the father had been traveling around with his men, searching for her. Lena calmly told him that if she ever saw his daughter, she would definitely inform him. The old man stared at her for a moment, then finally nodded and drove away with his men. That night, while everyone sat together, Aiden asked Lena about the villa, why this place was so well prepared. Lena explained that the National Security Agency had already predicted that a zombie virus outbreak would happen someday. That's why they had already built thousands of safe houses in faraway places. All those houses were strong and had self-sufficient energy systems. Hearing this, Aiden felt sad. He thought Lena should have warned people earlier. Maybe more lives could have been saved. But Lena shook her head helplessly. The truth was, Jim and his sister were born with a serious heart condition. Jim's father was a biologist, one of the first scientists to study the zombie virus. When he realized that his son wouldn't live past the age of 3, he took a huge risk and injected the zombie virus into Jim's body. That mistake actually turned Jim into a special kind of infected person. Unfortunately, during one of Jim's crazy episodes, he bit his own father. The father couldn't save himself and slowly turned into an ordinary zombie, the same one Lena was forced to kill with her own hands. After hearing this story, Aiden's respect for this mother grew even stronger. He wanted to do something for this small family, and soon Lena's family started trusting him deeply. One day, their dog barked twice without any reason. Jim instantly understood that he was about to lose control again. He locked himself inside his room, and soon loud screams of pain echoed from within. Lena's heart broke, but she could only wait outside the door for time to pass. Aiden stepped forward and offered to stand guard instead. That's when Lena realized how valuable it was to have a man like him around, but no one expected what happened next. While playing outside, Jim's sister suddenly collapsed and fainted. Lena rushed to her and realized she had suffered a heart attack. With their limited medical supplies, saving her was impossible. Aiden suggested infecting her with the zombie virus too, just like Jim, but Lena refused. Jim's case was 1 in a million, and he had already suffered too much. In the end, they made the painful decision to let the little girl go peacefully. When Jim returned to his senses, the whole family joined together for her final goodbye. Not long after, it was time for Aiden to leave too. Even though Jim and Lena begged him to stay, he decided to continue his journey to find his wife. After he left, the house felt emptier than ever. Lena and Jim tried to carry on, but silence surrounded them. Meanwhile, in the nearby forest, Whitebeard's men found Jack's hidden car. Coincidentally, the couple who had once tried to take over Lena's villa were the same people Whitebeard was hunting for. Since Lena's villa was closest to the car's hiding spot, Whitebeard decided to search it again. Sleeping in the snow, Aiden suddenly woke up to the sound of footsteps. When the noise stopped, he came outside and saw lots of footprints in the snow, all leading toward Lena's villa. His heart filled with worry, and he immediately ran in that direction. From a distance, he saw that the villa was now surrounded by armed men. Inside, Whitebeard was questioning Lena about her daughter, because his men had found a small item belonging to the girl in that house. Lena stood there silently, with nothing left to say. Meanwhile, Aiden quietly sneaked past the guards and managed to enter the villa. There, in the kitchen, he found Jim hiding, terrified but alive. After asking about the number of enemies, Aiden pulled out his weapon and moved through the darkness like an angel of death. One by one, he silently took down every guard posted around the villa. But when he entered the main hall, dozens of guns were suddenly aimed at his head. Everyone thought it was over, but what Aiden did next shocked them all. He took his knife and cut his own throat. The people standing there froze in disbelief. Only Lena understood what he was trying to do. Without wasting a second, she quietly grabbed Jim and escaped from the hall. Just as she expected, within moments Aiden completely lost control and turned into a raging monster. Now he looked like an unstoppable superhuman. In mere seconds, he wiped out Whitebeard and all of his men. But this time, Lena hadn't tied him up in advance, so she had no choice but to run away from the villa with her son. Aiden's terrifying roar echoed across the land, drawing countless zombies toward the villa. The next day, when Aiden finally woke up, the entire villa was destroyed. Everything was covered in blood and ashes. On the table, he found a letter that Lena had left for him. In it, she wrote that she and her son had gone north, and if fate allowed, they might meet again someday. Aiden smiled softly, picked up the little doll that belonged to the sister, placed it carefully on his back, and started walking toward the north. So friends, how did you like this zombie story? Don't forget to tell us in the comments below.